Update: my husband lied about coming to help me while I was critically sick. Original post: I, 28 female, have been married to my husband, 32 male, for 3 years. We have a 1-year-old daughter together. Up until recently, I thought I could count on him when I truly needed him. But last week, he proved me completely wrong. I had been feeling off for a couple of days, fatigued, nauseous, just generally unwell. Then one morning, I woke up with a fever, chills, and a deep sense that something was really wrong. I was so weak I could barely get out of bed. Taking care of our daughter felt impossible. I called my husband at work and told him I needed him to come home. He promised he would. An hour passed, then 2. He kept texting me, saying he was just finishing up something and would leave soon. Then he claimed he was stuck in traffic. Then he said he was on his way but had to stop for gas. At this point, my fever was getting worse, and I was struggling to even sit up without feeling dizzy. I told him it was urgent. He reassured me he was almost there. But something felt off, so I texted one of his co-workers, someone I knew he was close with. The response I got sent a chill down my spine. He hasn't left yet. He's still here. I was furious and terrified. I immediately called my neighbor, a kind older woman. She came over right away, helped me get dressed, and drove me to the hospital. Turns out, I had a severe asymptomatic urinary tract infection that had turned into a serious kidney infection. My heart rate was dangerously high, and the doctors told me that if I had waited much longer, I could have gone into septic shock. 2 hours later, while I was lying in that hospital bed, shaking from fever and hooked up to an IV, my husband finally decided to show up. I didn't even want to look at him. He tried to explain, saying he didn't realize it was that bad and that he was just trying to wrap things up at work. But I can't get over the fact that he lied to me over and over while I was at home struggling to stay conscious. If my neighbor hadn't been there, I don't know what would have happened to me. I feel so betrayed. If he could ignore me in a life-threatening situation, what does that say about our marriage? About our future? About our daughter's safety if something ever happens again? I don't know what to do. Would you be able to trust your partner after something like this? Now for the top advice before reading the update. I needed your help. I called you. You lied. I could have died. I almost died. Those are facts. How do you propose to fix the trust you broke? Put it in his lap. If he tries to gaslight you, minimize or bargain, it's not going to work. If he promises that he will never do anything to break your trust again, he's lying. Therapy, concrete actions, and committing to better and open communication are the only ways forward. But you need to be sure you want to salvage this. That's a question only you can answer. I don't know if I could. I suppose it depends on the context of the relationship. You seem to indicate this was the first and only time he did something like that. If that's the case, maybe it's fixable with actual work. This is the first time he's done this for something serious, but it's not the first time he's lied about his arrival time home or didn't make me a priority. That's why I asked his colleague. I understand that he lied and that is upsetting, but I can't help thinking if this is like a boy who cried wolf situation. My mom is very dramatic when she gets sick, so much so that I fear now the only way I would believe it's urgent is if I saw her passed out needing an ambulance. If this has happened with you guys, then I would understand his lack of urgency. I know everyone is throwing out divorce, but I would talk to him first and try counseling. I'm not the type to ask him for help for no reason or to seek medical attention without a real problem. On the contrary, I waited until I was in pretty bad shape because, at first, I thought it was just a simple virus. Yeah, no, I couldn't do this either. If you had waited for him and gone into septic shock and probably ultimately died, what would he have done then? That could have 100% been prevented if he had just come home when you asked. He gives more loyalty to a job that'll just replace him when his time comes over his wife, whom he chose to love in sickness and health. We're expecting to have our first child in about a month and a half. I, the dad, notified work of the due date and expected that I'd be scheduled on overlapping shifts so that if something happened, they wouldn't have to scramble to find coverage. March schedule just came out, and in the last week, I'm exclusively scheduled at off-sites on my own, so I can't just drop everything and leave. Really? Yeah, right. Guess who has 2 feet and can leave? I'm not missing the birth of my first child for anything, and I'm not going to be anywhere except wherever boss mama wants me to be. I went through something very similar with the now ex. I tried to get past it, but I just knew in my heart after that he wasn't reliable and wouldn't prioritize me even in the most dire circumstances. That's a hard thing to move past, even without children. Yup, me too. Now ex. Put everyone ahead and even doubted my illness. Not a friend or even a person on your team. This is one of those, when they show you who they are, believe them moments. Now for the update. I'm feeling better and finally back home after a few days in the hospital. My parents came to pick up my daughter and took care of her while I was away. They live 4 hours away, so I hadn't asked for their help earlier. I didn't really get an apology from him, just a bunch of excuses. He said he didn't think it was that serious and that I should have just gone to the neighbor if it was really that bad. I didn't argue, not because I agreed, but because some of the comments I got made me realize some things. People asked if I'm the type to cry wolf, and that's why he didn't come. In 5 years of being together, I've only ever needed him to take me to the hospital once, when I gave birth to our daughter. He wasn't there when I was sick, and if he had come home, he probably wouldn't have done much anyway, unless it required a hospital. But then someone asked me what I'd do if it was our daughter in my position, and he acted the same way. That hit me hard. And as dramatic as it sounds, I don't want to be with him anymore. I don't think I can ever trust him again. I've made an appointment with a lawyer, but of course divorce takes time. I'm looking for an apartment, but the housing shortage is a nightmare. Since I live in a rural area though, there's still hope. I haven't told him yet. He's acting like nothing's wrong, so I'm doing the same. I even saw comments suggesting that he might not have actually been at work, maybe using it as an excuse for something else. So one night while he was sleeping, I checked his phone. I didn't find proof that he wasn't at work, but I did find messages to women. Multiple flirty ones. And a Tinder app. These messages have been going on for months. He was also sending TikToks to his friends while I was sick, laughing and joking around with no real concern for me. He told me his boss refused to give him time off, but I found no evidence that he even asked for a time off or discussed my condition with anyone. I'm starting to suspect he lied, because if he really had asked, it would have been illegal for his boss to deny him leave where I live. At this point, I don't feel like confronting him. I just want out. I ignored the red flags before, the small lies, broken promises, and I shouldn't have. I thought he'd be there for me when it mattered most, but I guess I was naive. I never thought anyone could let me down like this. I'm not telling him I'm leaving until I'm ready, just like he didn't tell me he wasn't coming. I'm not really surprised you found what you found. I'm so glad you're okay, and I applaud you for realizing that you and your daughter deserve better. You're absolutely correct not to mention anything until the plan is fully in place as you walk out the door. Good luck, everything will be better. Exactly this. OP is handling it smart. No need to give him a heads up. Wishing her and her daughter a smooth transition to a better life. Take screenshots of the app and flirty texts. This is evidence your divorce lawyer can use later. Where I am, infidelity doesn't change anything regarding divorce, but I still did it for if he tries to lie to people. If I remember correctly, you had a UTI that led to severe kidney infection? Go get tested for STDs immediately. They probably checked for some at the hospital, but they might not have. I don't agree with the consensus here. I don't see the value in being as invalidating as he was. He has invalidated your pain and shown how little he thinks of you. Leave by all means, but to do so without speaking your truth will hurt more than him. It'll affect the relationship with your children. Again, I would leave him, but I wouldn't stoop to his level. I do not trust him to let me leave peacefully and let me stay until I'm prepared and have somewhere to go either at this point if I told him now. Next story. Found out my girlfriend, 32 female, has been lying to me, 35 male, about her finances. I recently discovered that my girlfriend of 3 years has been lying to me about her finances and that she makes about $8,000 a month after taxes, while I make about $7,000 a month. She also got a promotion at work a few months ago that she has not mentioned to me yet. To put this into context, we live in a very expensive city because of our jobs, and she has refused to pay a significant portion of the rent since we moved in together. She only agreed to spend $500 of her own money on rent, leaving me to foot the remaining $2,100. Before she moved in, I shared the apartment with a friend, and we both paid $1,300 each. The owner has raised the rent steadily over the last 2 years, and now we are supposed to pay $3,000. That means I'll be paying $2,500 a month or $30,000 a year. We could move to a cheaper place, but that would mean a 3-hour commute, which is not ideal. My girlfriend continues to refuse to pay more in rent despite making more, and the financial strain is getting to me. I barely have any savings. I pay for almost everything, while she spends most of her money on makeup, designer clothes, and fancy dinners with her friends. When I confronted her about lying to me about her finances, she told me she made $60,000 a year before we moved in. She said it's my responsibility as a man to pay the rent, and that she can't afford to pay half the rent while also living the lifestyle she wants. She also has no financial discipline or any idea where all that money disappears to. I'm sorry I'm ranting, but I just feel frustrated and don't have anyone to talk to about all this. I feel so frustrated and drained. I am angry and feel like I have been deceived by someone I thought I could share my life with. I feel totally lost, like I have been a fool for the past 3 years and have wasted my time dating her when she clearly can't be honest with me. I have tried many times to be reasonable and understanding, but it just doesn't work. She is just a leech trying to drain every single penny out of me. I'm starting to have second thoughts about our future together. Maybe we shouldn't be getting married after all. So what do you guys think I should do? Now for the advice. I know Reddit has a bad rep for telling people to break up, but dude, break up. What she's doing is financially abusive, and it's truly messed up on multiple levels. Good God, man. Give the landlord notice, move to a low-cost 1-bedroom place, and build your finances back up. Lose the parasite. Someone who is an appropriate life partner would not act this way. Even if she's from some hardcore traditional or gendered culture where the man pays, both honesty and prioritizing the financial health of your partnership have to be core values for a life partner. Seriously, can you imagine the nightmare of marrying someone like this? Both sets of my grandparents are from a hardcore traditional and gendered culture. Single income. My mom has 6 siblings. My dad has 5. My grandfathers made sure they set money aside so their families could have security, and my grandmothers spent carefully to ensure their husbands wouldn't have to break their backs to do so. Sometimes people use gender norms as a pass to treat their partners poorly. I never heard anyone in my family say, "Your responsibility as the man or woman is to XYZ." Everyone understood their responsibility was to do what was needed for the health and benefit of the family unit. Neglecting and lying about finances, especially at the expense of your partner's financial and emotional well-being, is totally incompatible with that. You deserve to be with someone who cares about you. Last story. I love that my ex's wife is miserable with him. Growing up, all I've heard my whole life is how to be perfect, study hard, get into a prestigious university, build a career, and then let it all go for a guy your parents approve of, let his parents treat you like their slave, and have his children. My parents luckily are wonderful people, and they have always cherished me. But my ambition and the need to simply not be unhappy always made me a pariah in my childhood circles. My ex and I started dating when we were both teenagers. He was kind and also my classmate, and I loved him a lot. We stayed together through my first year of college. Then the emotional abuse started. His mother found out about us, and she hated me. My mother is a college-educated woman, and she hated that. She thought that because my mom isn't religious, I'd break the family if I married into it. He started to hate me. I spent months not sleeping, crying all the time and suffering from depression, all because he would yell at me, but refused to let me break up with him. I'd go to his family functions, and his friends, especially a much younger female family friend, would come up to me, sometimes take away the chair I was sitting on, spill water on my sari, or drop curry on me while serving food, all while telling my ex's mom, within earshot, that I was a whore who dated boys and did drugs. My ex would stand there and not defend me. Looking back, 19-year-old me was a massive idiot, and boy did the ordeal with my ex teach me life lessons. I told my dad because I could not eat properly, and I was in a horrible mental state. He called my ex, and I don't know what he said, but my ex told me he wouldn't bother me again, and that we should break up. Except he did bother me whenever he got drunk, and after a while, I blocked him. He also ended up marrying that family friend the moment he got a job. I only know anything about him because our only mutual friend told me a few days ago that they are miserable. My ex has a job he hates, and his mom makes his life a living hell while constantly fighting with his wife, who thought she was marrying into money and wouldn't have to work at all, except his ultra-conservative father would never allow a household helper to enter their pure home. They always fight wherever they go. The mom and wife scream at each other all the time, and my ex no longer wants children, so his father and he don't talk to each other, yet they all still live in the same house. I can't help but feel really satisfied. I know it's horrible, and I know I should have empathy, but I can't bring myself to do it. He ruined a year of my life that I will never get back. I just can't stop feeling good, even though I know I shouldn't. They all deserve each other. Good job for dumping him, and your parents are wonderful. Karma did exactly what it needed to do. He and his family put you through hell, and now they're living in the chaos they created. You didn't wish it on them. They chose this. Enjoy your peace. You earned it. Are you sure that's just not relief? I would be so happy to know I dodged that bullet. I can't speak for OP, but I think it's deeper than that. It's relief, but also satisfaction in seeing her ex get his just desserts. I don't know how I would feel. I left my emotionally and psychologically abusive ex-husband, who deliberately caused issues between me and his mother and sister, though his dad and brother were angels. When I was 36 and he was 47, I left after 11 years together. I thought I was wife number 4, which was awful enough. But I was 25 when we got together, and in a very vulnerable place in my life, which he preyed on with such calculation, the details of which I learned after the divorce, when his ex-wives reached out with care, concern, and support. Turns out there were actually 5 wives before me. His best friend married one of my best friends right after our divorce, and she told me that the woman he married soon after me gave him a taste of his own medicine, that it was an absolute nightmare. And even hearing all that, I still worried for that woman. I felt like her core issues were different from mine, even if they presented the same way on the surface. I didn't want any woman to go through what I'd been through. I think I was still numb at that point about how his situation affected him. Maybe if I'd healed to the point I am now, I could have enjoyed a bit of satisfaction. OP sounds like a strong woman. Not that I'm not, but I was broken for 3 years post-divorce as I untangled the mess the abuse did to my mind. While in the abuse, I was in survival mode. OP is probably even past where I am today, almost 8 years post-divorce. She is strong enough that she has already been able to feel relief for some time. Now she can have some satisfaction in the misery of someone who made her miserable and stole a piece of her youth.